halftime show. What's trending at 2 is Carey Rich in studio hanging out with us, Terry Ford Tylerhead. First of all, my friend, great to have you back in, dude.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back in the house.
Yeah, you were in this house for a long time before you jumped off, started hanging out with Lamont Paris and the coaching staff. So yeah, we're happy to have you back, man.
It's good to be back. Sir, I don't think I've been in the studio since I took the job 2 years ago.
Right.
Just the opportunity didn't present itself, and winning helps. So I'm wondering, I'm just wondering, Terry, if we didn't have the season we had, would I still have gotten an invite?
Sure, Carey. Sure, no matter what. Promise.
Now, you did make that promise to me before
I did remember
left, right?
when you were taking the gig.
Yes.
You were telling us,
Yes.
Keith and I, it's like we're going to have you back in here.
Yes.
We'll get you back in.
But you also told me I'd always have a job here, too. I want the entire listening audience to hear that.
I tell you what, you know how I skated right around. No, you're always welcome to come back here and hang out. The door is always open for you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Get on back in here. Hey, so let's rewind.
Okay.
You take the job. I mean, look, Frank's program was solid. It wasn't terrible. It was just wasn't getting back to the dance, but there was winning records. There were successful moments, but it just was, and it just felt like a reset for everybody, for Frank, for the program, for everybody. And then Lamont gets hired. And then you get offered a job on the coaching staff. Now, when you go in there and you all you guys are talking, you, Lamont, the other coaches, what was like, because everybody's got a mission statement, right? Everybody,
Sure.
and Lamont obviously has got a mission. You've got your ideas. Everybody's got their ideas. What was the first thing when you guys said, okay, what we want to be is blank? What was the first thing that you guys said, this is the kind of program we want?
Well, I'll first of all say this job could not have been more perfectly written for me, and it did not have a job description.
Yeah, right.
It could not have been more perfectly written for me, and it did not have a job description. And the first thing I had to do was I had to learn Lamont Paris. I had to learn his philosophy, his style, his system, what he wanted. And I'm a pretty good listener. I paid attention. I know how to listen and keep my mouth shut and learn and kind of get in line. And that's what I was able to do. But he offers a certain cadence, and he's a really intelligent basketball coach. He's really an intelligent person.
Right. And
his ability to communicate, I think, is what allows the connectivity that you see our players have to him. He's guys want to play for him. He emphasizes confidence. He emphasizes swag. It doesn't matter what game we're in. It doesn't matter what arena we're playing in. He wants guys to play with confidence. He wants guys to play with intelligence. He wants guys to play with a very unselfish nature. And he does it in a way to where guys respond to him. And when you see the locker room celebrations, when you see him dancing, that's not superficial. It's authentic, it's genuine, and that's why you see the reaction that you see from our players, and that's why you saw the connectivity in terms of how it all played out on the court.
Our buddy Carey Rich hanging out with us. Former Gamecock, former member of the game, now part of Lamont Paris' staff at South Carolina. You know, now we said this on the air. I mean, it's not because, we love you to death and we've known you, but hiring you was so smart because there might not be a guy that knows this state when it comes to hoop like you. There's not a guy that knows the coaches all over the state like you. The connections, getting that door back open and that path back from the state to the gym. You were the guy to do all that. Your job was enormous, my friend, by the way. So let's talk about, because Lamont Paris has said how instrumental you've been in this turnaround for South Carolina basketball. So let's give Carey Rich some love here. When you first took this job, knowing what you had to go do, how did you tackle this?
Well, first of all, what I wanted to do was dispel the notion that you can't come to South Carolina and not fulfill your dreams of getting to the NBA, playing in the NCAA tournament, playing in front of big crowds. That's the first thing I wanted to help Lamont Paris and the staff accomplish. And the way I was able to do that is, and I'm going to sound old when I say this, Terry, but I've had a very intimate relationship with the University of South Carolina and the SEC for 3 decades, 30 years. And once I started playing there in 1991, 92, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 years, I never detached from the program. So I was always up close and personal. I was always a part of it. And in doing that, I was able to forge some really good relationships with all of the coaches that were a part of this program, some closer than others. It's no secret that Frank Martin and I became really, really good friends. We're still great friends to this very day. And because I became so close to those guys, I was able to get a better understanding of the inner workings of the program. Mm-hmm. And, you know, maybe some good, some bad, some ugly. I was able to take all of those things, take all of those different ideas and marry those things with my experience as a player, my relationships as just an ambassador of basketball throughout the state of South Carolina, not only Columbia. And I was able to marry all of those things and make it one perspective. And making that one perspective allowed us to kind of have a roadmap, which is when I was hired to do that, just to kind of help serve as the ultimate navigation system for Coach Paris. There wasn't a whole lot of familiarity with the state of South Carolina, with this region of the country. Certainly they coached at UT Chattanooga, but South Carolina is a little bit unique. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's unique is when you look at the success that this basketball program has had, there's always been a correlation to having the best players from South Carolina. We needed to get back to that. All of those relationships that you talked about, they all know how I feel about the University of South Carolina. I don't just work at the University of South Carolina. I live it. I live it every single day. And all of those relationships throughout the state of South Carolina, they understand that. And now we get things going. We kind of dispel the notion or defy some of the things that's been said about South Carolina. And just like that, we turn it around. And now it's certainly still got to do your job as a staff and recruit, but it's helped erase some of those obstacles that have been in place for a long, long time. And, you know, a lot of people, we all fall prey to recent history, and it's easy to blame Frank Martin. But if you look back at the history of this program, there were several guys, several top-notch players that bypassed South Carolina going back to the 80s, and it continued that cycle. And what I wanted to do was kind of use, again, all of those different experiences I've had. And I like to say I have the ultimate cheat sheet. I have the ultimate cheat sheet because I've heard what the coaches have said. I've heard what they've complained about. So, okay, here's a playbook to try to counter or combat some of the things that have been issues for this program.
All right, was it what you've been doing when you told everything you just said, knowing what you were getting yourself into, mm-hmm. was it easier than you thought, harder, or was it about what you thought it would be when you started to put that game plan into place?
Well, it's certainly harder. It was going to be hard. I never thought it would be easy. And also you have to realize I needed to get to know Lamont Paris.
Right.
Lamont Paris I needed to earn the trust of Lamont Paris and the staff. So that was a period of transition just in itself. Even though he'd heard about Carey Rich, he didn't know what Carey Rich was about. I had to kind of prove myself to a certain extent. Fortunately for him, he was open-minded. Again, he's a really, really smart, very intelligent person. He didn't resist it, and he put me in position to help navigate the game plan. And again, just winning and getting it turned helped. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that I used to hear some of the previous coaches talk about was, you know, here in the state of South Carolina, and it's August. I can't believe I'm in studio talking basketball in August, a couple of weeks before the start of football season.
Right.
And that was one of the things that South Carolina basketball program has always had an issue. You didn't really talk about basketball until January, after football season was over with. Well, how do you change that? How do you combat that? Well, you come up with a plan to help brand your program, to help find a vehicle to help tell the story. And if you pay attention to social media right now, we have an awesome creative team. There's always something about South Carolina basketball on social media. Well, that's intentional. That's to make sure our fans, our community, they know that we're at South Carolina, we're doing our best, and we're trying to show our prospects and upcoming players that this is the place to come play. You don't have to go to rival SEC schools or other schools in the ACC. You can come and accomplish anything you want at the University of South Carolina. So it certainly wasn't easy, but having a cheat sheet allowed me maybe to circumvent a few things to get closer to the end game.
Yeah, our buddy Carey Rich with us talking South Carolina men's basketball. You bring up Lamont. He's an interesting dude. It's like we've had him on here. He was on with Heath when he first got here, and he's been on with the morning show a few times. And again, you know, the morning show you've listened to, they like to get goofy with people. And Lamont, I mean, who knew that this guy was like a master chef making macaroni and cheese? Or, you know, what he likes to do, what he likes to do, like as a hobby to kind of get himself like wound down from all the tension is wash his own car. I mean, just like let me ask you this. Have you ever, when's the last time you washed your own car? Right.
You're going to make me embarrass myself. I can't remember the last time I washed my car.
Me either. And he likes to go out. That's his thing to go. I like to relax by washing my own car. It's like, wow, really? I can't remember the last time I didn't go through a car wash.
Yeah, he is a very interesting, again, but very intelligent person. He can speak to any topic. His level of communication to be able to make it understandable, to make it land in a way to where it's received by our players, received by our staff. Yes, it's been really, really fun working for him. And he doesn't have a whole lot going on outside of basketball. Which is good and bad. The reason it's good is because there wasn't a single game that I went into I didn't feel like we had a chance to win, because he's going to put together an unbelievable game plan. He's been around winning for his entire coaching career, so he knows what winning looks like. He's convicted in his philosophy, and because of that, he's able to put together a formula that allows us to be successful.
You know what I love myself personally, I've talked to some other just guys here and media people. You love hearing him talk ball, like in post game, in his pressers.
He's a junkie.
What he does, it's really a cool balance. He will talk about something that went wrong without throwing somebody under the bus.
Communication. He's great at it.
I mean, it's just like he'll tell you, and he'll go a little deeper. Look, a lot of coaches, you know this, they do coach speak. They're taught. It's like a class, coach speak 101. He doesn't do that. He will tell you like real stuff going on that a lot of coaches won't talk about in the game, but he won't do it in a negative way to put any shade on a player.
Which made it that much easier for me to come on radio with you today, because there isn't a lot of cliche with him. It's not a lot of coach speak. Yeah. So what he speaks is the truth. He speaks. He likes to talk about in film sessions. We watch film every single day. We film every practice, of course, but we watch film before practice every single day. And he likes to say he specializes in truth telling, because the film doesn't lie. But what it does is it allows our guys to see the things that we're doing well, and it allows our guys to see, you know what, that wasn't the right play, but maybe we would have done it, or you could have done it this way. And that is a way of communicating to where our guys understand it, and they go out and they do exactly what he said in the film room. Wow.
We're going to talk more about this past year, where you guys pretty much were one of the surprise teams in the country in the turnaround that happened from year one to year two. We're going to get into that. Come our buddy Carey Rich hanging out with Lamont Paris on the coaching staff at South Carolina. We're going to talk more with Carey about what was a phenomenal year two for Lamont and Carey and the program. That's next. What's trending at 2 is our buddy Carey Rich, brought to you by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Carey Rich on the game.
107.5 The Game.
In Columbia.
100.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.3 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach. The Game Network.
The Game's Summer Golf Classic Golf Tournament is coming.
Sign up, start the week.